Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited and a little bit nervous about today's topic. We are going to be, or I am going to be, chatting about inner child. So I am excited because this is currently quite a big part of my own self-healing, inner work, whatever you want to call it. I feel like I'm saying those words all the time and always talking about it, but that's a big part of my life right now. So let's just go ahead and dive in. I'm hoping today to provide you with kind of the basics of what the inner child actually is, how you can work to heal the inner child, and then I'm just going to share a little bit of my own experiences. I actually laid down and did an inner child meditation last night that got a little bit emotional for me. So I'm going to dive into that. And yeah, let's just get started. So I do have notes that I'm going to refer to just because there's a couple things I want to make sure I don't forget. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with the inner child, it is exactly what it sounds like. So, it's the child within us that has likely experienced trauma or abuse or neglect or abandonment, or the list could go on and on and on. So, essentially, it is that younger child version of ourselves that we were as a child that basically lives within us. So, if our inner child is left unhealed, it can cause us as adults to live in all sorts of different ways. So, for example, we could live just in constant fear. We could have self-worth issues. We maybe feel we are living a false life that just doesn't feel good or true. That's something that I experience or experienced. I'm working on it. Lack of trust in yourself and others, addictions, problems with boundaries, and physical symptoms that could be rooted in our experiences that we had as a child. And the list really, really goes on and on and on. So, a lot of symptoms, whether they're physical or mental or emotional, can really be traced back to your inner child. So, as children, we essentially become our parents in a sense of we're not aware enough as children to question our parents or caregivers or grandparents, whoever's taking care of us as we are a young child. We're not aware enough to question their thoughts, their behaviors, their beliefs, their own conditioning that they are projecting onto us. So we're automatically taking all of that on as our own. And we developed a script for how life should be or how life should go, the proper way to act and be and talk, and all of these different things. So then, seeing as how we as humans are at least 95% ruled by the subconscious, which is the way you can think of it is like an iceberg. So the part of the iceberg that you can see that is above the water is maybe 5 or 10%, and the big huge chunk, which would represent the subconscious, is underneath the water where you can't actually see it. So we're essentially ruled by our subconscious. These are our subconscious thoughts, beliefs, habits, patterns, things that maybe consciously we are wanting to change, but there are things that are kind of holding us back from doing that because of what's lodged within the subconscious. So, living from the subconscious, we're essentially repeating that script over and over and over again as we grow up because we don't know any different. So, for example, maybe you enter into romantic relationships to try to prove to yourself that you're worthy of love that you didn't receive as a child. Like, that's a very basic example, but it gives you one idea of how we are repeating and living out these patterns that we adopted as children. So until you go back and meet your inner child and heal and work with the inner child, these patterns are going to keep you stuck living life in ways that you're maybe not actually enjoying. So as another basic example, if you learned as a child that the only proper, and I use air quotes a lot because it's just what I like to do, that the only proper way to live is to work a 9 to 5 job, then you likely would do that as an adult, even if it meant being miserable. So I know in our society where we're living or where I'm living, that's what you do. You get a job that you don't necessarily love, and you do that so that you can pay the bills and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you maybe are feeling scared or silly or even stupid to admit to yourself and others that that type of life just doesn't work for you. So again, you're rooting back into the inner child because you're scared to actually speak up and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling, or hey, this doesn't feel like my truth. This doesn't feel like the way I want to live. Okay? So there are some different things you can do to begin working with and healing the inner child. So the basics of inner child healing are to basically energetically travel back in time, meet and reconnect with your inner child, listen to them, let them know they're safe and loved, and then in your daily life, you're beginning to reparent yourself. So, the name of my YouTube channel, Consciously Reparenting, because this is such a big part of my journey and I think is going to be for quite some time. When we're talking about reparenting, this is the act of giving yourself what you didn't receive as a child. This is the work that you do daily. So you can go into your inner child meditation, that can be all well and great, but then you have to put the work in daily to actually make these changes and to reparent yourself. So I'm going to link a video in the description box by, surprise, surprise, the Holistic Psychologist, and she gives a really great explanation of what she calls the 4 pillars of reparenting. So reparenting really is a little bit of a whole other topic that I haven't really dove into yet here on my channel. I think I will, I'm just not sure when. But if you're wanting to know a little bit more about that, you can head to her website, watch the video that I'm going to link, you can Google it, and it's going to go through and talk about how you can reparent yourself and why it really should be, you can choose to make that a part of your own self-healing. So a few small ways you can connect with your inner child on a daily basis. And I really like doing this because I'm going to dive in a little bit early to my own personal experiences. I, somewhere along the line, and I feel like, I'm not sure when, I haven't really dove into kind of when this shifted for me, but I really lost my sense of like being willing to just be free and let go and have fun. So, what my own reparenting and inner child healing looks like a lot of the time is connecting into my inner child and just doing things that feel fun for me. I think I felt for a long time that I had to like have a reason for wanting to like go sledding or blow bubbles or whatever the case may be. So these are some small ways that you can connect with your inner child on a daily basis. So you can keep a photo of yourself as a child somewhere where you can look at it every day. So I'm in my office currently, and I don't know if you'll be able to see or not, but I have on my desk, this is a photo of me as a child, probably maybe age 1.5, just looking really joyful, just having that free-flowing energy. So I hang that up there where I can see it every day. I also have photos of myself as a child with each of my 3 grandparents who have passed away. So that helps me connect with that inner child and connect with them as well. Now, you can also keep an item from childhood near your bed or in your office or wherever you are daily where you can connect with that item, therefore connecting with your inner child. So I keep my baby blanket tucked into the corner of our headboard, and then oftentimes I fall asleep with my hand laying on top of it. So it's like up here, kind of, near my head, and then as I fall asleep, if I fall asleep like this, then I'm laying my hand on top of it, and that's just that little bit of a connection that I can have. Now, this is a really fun thing. You might want to do this for some home play. Do the little things that spark joy. This is the same joy that you felt as a child. So again, that free, fun, playful energy. So, I like to blow bubbles. coloring or drawing a picture, dancing and singing, watching cartoons, running through the sprinkler, playing a board game, going to the park, going skating or sledding, whatever it looks like for you. It's just those little things that we may perceive as childish or things that just kids do. As we go through life, we are told we need to grow up, and I think that that's what we do, is we are told that it's not maybe appropriate to be doing these fun and joyful things. So sprinkle those into your daily life if possible. If not your daily life, at least once a week. So anytime you're feeling an inner nudge to do something fun, do it. That is your inner child wanting to come out and play. Okay, so for me, as a child, I'm not sure what age, maybe I couldn't even take a guess, to be honest with you, but I took figure skating lessons. And then, for gym class in high school, we went skating a couple times. And then I had my son when I was 20, and I think I tried skating once after that, and I felt so uncoordinated and awful at it that I didn't try again. I was probably about 21 or 22 at that time, and I had just turned 33. And just this year, or the end of last year, we're at the beginning of 2020 right now. So just in November, December of 2019, when I was 32, I tried skating again, and it makes me feel so joyful. And I'm not the greatest at it, but I just keep doing it because it makes me feel really good. So anything like that you enjoy, going for a walk, being in nature, whatever. The list is really endless. So it's really just whatever makes you feel good. So those are kind of the little ways that you can connect in and heal the inner child. And then there are some bigger things that you can do. So you can do guided meditation or visualization. So this is what I like to do, is I'll sit down and do a meditation, and then I'll journal about what I experienced in my meditation, if I can remember, when I kind of come back into my body a little bit. And then I'm going to attach a couple of links to some guided inner child meditations on YouTube, or you can search inner child meditation, and there's lots of different things that pop up. So those are the basics. Those are the essentials. That's how it works. If you have any questions, or if you're unclear about any of that, you can find the link to my website below, and you can contact me that way. Or if you found this video through social media, you can contact me on Facebook, Instagram, or wherever you can find me. I just need to get a little bit more comfortable. So I'm going to dive in now and chat a little bit, or maybe a lot, I don't know yet, about my own experience with all of this. So inner child healing is something that I would say I've really, for the most part, been avoiding, because I know how heavy it can be. I know, it's really hard to dive into that. And I will say, I, as a child, never experienced any physical abuse or emotional abuse. I never experienced any big major traumas. My parents were, fairly level-headed, fairly quote-unquote normal. I had a very, fairly calm and peaceful childhood. So I can't speak about inner child wounds from a space of understanding those more bigger traumatic events, but I'm just going to speak to what my experience is. I do have a father wound, so that's a really big part of what my own healing has been. It's a little bit difficult for me to open up and talk about this because, my family is out there possibly watching this, but the reason I am putting myself in this vulnerable space and speaking about it is because it's my journey. Before I really dive into it, I just want to say, for everyone, not just for me, our parents do the best they can with the resources and the knowledge that they have at the time. So right now, I have a 12-year-old son. I'm doing the best I can with the knowledge I have, with all of the tools that I have. He may grow up, he probably will. He'll grow up and he'll have to do his own self healing and his own inner work if he so chooses. But none of this inner child work and this healing is to say that our parents were terrible people, because they weren't. Like I said, they did their best with what they knew. And I'm 33. I was born in 1987. And so at that time when I was a child, there wasn't really this awareness and this openness and this vulnerability that there is now in this time in 2020. So not only with social media are we able to connect with each other, but we're able to bring to light some of these more difficult topics to talk about. So I know, my parents were young when they had me, and they did their best. They did their best, and they had their own conditioning and their own beliefs and thoughts and everything that they soaked up from their parents. So you can see how it all just trickles down the line throughout generations. And I know that part of my purpose here right now is to not only heal myself, but to heal those generational wounds. And it's a big undertaking. It's a lot to dive into. So now that I've said that and I've made that clear, I'm not here to attack my own parents. I'm not here to attack their parents. I'm not here to attack your parents or your caregivers or grandparents or whoever. That's not the purpose of this. But like I was saying, I do have a father wound. So when I was a child and continuing into adulthood, I didn't receive the love and care and attention that I needed from my father. And it is really hard to talk about because up until less than a year ago, I would say, I really idealized my childhood and I thought that it was just great. And for the most part, it was. But until I kind of learned and started diving into my own self-healing, I didn't necessarily receive what I needed as a child to come into adulthood feeling safe, loved, protected, feeling worthy. So last night, I'll go back a little bit farther. A few months ago, I received a inner child session from Consciously Coco. You can find her on Instagram. I've been working with her for quite a while, and she did an inner child session for me. And because she knows me personally, and because I've worked with her together, she actually went in and she was able to come through with 5 different inner child memories or experiences that I had. Now, all of them except for one had to do with my father. Not surprising. I knew that was going to come up. When she sent me the session and I sat down and I read through it all, immediately it was just heavy. Like I just felt so overwhelmed, and I set it aside and I put it off for months, until probably a couple weeks ago. It's February 3rd today as I'm recording this video. So I would say 2 or 3 weeks ago, I finally sat down and I laid down and I did my first inner child meditation. Now, it was intense. And I didn't actually journal after that one. I just let the energy come up and kind of just let it be what it was. So that was fine. And then last night I felt called to sit down and do another meditation. So I did. In the first one, I didn't have a lot of release, a lot of shift, but that doesn't mean that things weren't happening on a deeper level and releasing and shifting for me without me kind of consciously being aware, consciously realizing. And so last night I put myself in the tub, I lit some candles, and I put on a guided meditation. It was only about 16 or 17 minutes long. That's what I like to keep it to because I don't, at this point in time, I don't have the patience to lay down for like a 30, 45 minute, 60-minute meditation. So that was the perfect length for me. And I listened to this meditation, and I'm going to link it below, the one that I used last night. And essentially, in your mind's eye, you bring yourself into a safe place, a happy place, quote unquote, and you walk up to your inner child. And, it takes you through the meditation, and it gets to the point where you put yourself into the body and the mind of your inner child. And as soon as I did that, well, first of all, when I walked up to her, she was cowering. She had her knees pulled up to her chest and her arms wrapped around, and she was just like shaking, just cowering, just like in fear. And I can feel my voice shaking right now as I'm talking about it. And so when I put myself kind of into her, the thing that came up immediately was feeling so completely and utterly alone. So whatever energy comes up first for me personally when I'm doing this type of thing, I know is what it is. It's my truth. It's what needs to be worked on. Now, the other thing that kept coming up as I was sitting with her or as I was being her was expectations. That word just kept flashing in my mind, expectations. And then just like this feeling of feeling like pressured, feeling unworthy, feeling unloved. So these are a lot of intense emotions. I'm actually surprised I'm not tearing up right now talking about it, because it was less than 24 hours ago that I did this meditation. And as I was in this meditation, I started crying. My physical body, not me, the me that was in the meditation. I started crying, and I cried for maybe 30 to 60 seconds, and then it just stopped. So that for me is my indication that something has had a big shift, something has had a big release. And I was able, like after I stopped crying, my inner child shifted and she became more joyful, she became happier, she became more free, more talkative. So I do remember as a child, even as an adult now, but I was a shy kid. I was a shy and quiet kid. So there's probably more to unpack with that. But, she really opened up and she really started talking to me and just was like, and just chit-chatting with me for the remainder of the meditation. And then when you wrap the meditation up and you're leaving, you can ask your inner child if he or she would like to stay behind in the safe, happy place, or if they would like to come with. And she actually came with. So I left that meditation feeling many things. I got out of the tub and I came and journaled the entire meditation before I kind of forgot about what I experienced. And I for the rest of the evening, it was probably about 6:30 in the evening when I did that meditation. And for the rest of the evening, I felt a little bit short and impatient and irritable and a little bit grumpy. And I know when I'm doing this inner work and those types of emotions are coming up, that those are things that are purging, they're cleansing from my body, from my my energy systems, my energy field. And I woke up this morning feeling great. So, that's just kind of the basics of my own experience and what I've been working on. And so now it is my task to take all of that came up from that meditation and begin to, well, not begin to, because I've already have been doing it, but continue to work on reparenting myself. So it's really interesting what actually I've been doing it's a 21-day challenge having to do with money and abundance. And so today I'm on day 19, and the task for today, or the action for today, was to contact 10 people and express gratitude towards them. So I made my list of 10 people, and I was really, really interested and intrigued that on my list I have my mom, my dad, and my sister. And then I have my partner, my son, and then my dog. Who else do I have? myself, and then a couple of people on social media that I just have connected with, and things like that. And the hardest ones for me to reach out to were my mom and my dad. My sister, not so much, because we're quite a bit more open with each other. But I sat here for a good few minutes. I did everyone else on my list first, and then I finally mustered up the courage to message them. We all have a group chat together, and so I messaged them in the group chat. I addressed them kind of as one, as a group, and then I addressed them a little bit more individually. But just doing that instead of avoiding it, like I easily could have chosen other people to reach out to. I easily could have just said, fuck this, and not done it at all. Just that showing up for myself and doing it is an example of reparenting. Another example of how I'm reparenting myself is, and I think this is one of the four pillars, is discipline. So I choose, or I have one, well, I have several, but, and I've talked about this in the future self journaling and other videos, is choosing one small thing to do every single day. So keeping one small promise to yourself every day. And that's not something, I mean, I was a fairly good kid when I was growing up. I was scared of getting in trouble, so I didn't really rock the boat at all. And I'm sure, again, there's more to unpack with that, but, I didn't really have that need for discipline in a sense of getting heck or getting in trouble. But didn't really have guidance in the sense of understanding how important discipline is for ourselves, because it means showing up for ourselves. It means putting ourselves first when oftentimes we are not used to that. So what else do? I do my future self journaling. I'm trying to drink lots of water, trying to eat healthier. I recently joined Weight Watchers. Growing up, I wasn't taught what it was to love your body as it is. So over the past years, I've gained 50, 60 pounds, and I'm not really loving my body. So I'm working between doing what feels good for my body. So maybe trying to lose a little bit of weight just to honestly like ease some of the physical actual strain on my body, and moving my body just for the sake of it feels good to move my body. So walking, dancing, yoga, whatever that might look like. And then, feeding my body foods that it actually enjoys. And I do struggle with binge eating, and I'm trying to shift and change things like that because I didn't have the guidance for that when I was a kid. So that's how it goes. That's what inner child is. That's what it's all about. It takes daily effort. There are days where it's just too much to handle, and I can't really do much of anything in terms of my own self-healing and my own inner work, but I do try to do some every day. And me starting this YouTube channel and just putting content out is part of my reparenting as well. Just putting content out without expecting or needing anything in return. I'm just here honestly to show up for myself, to just keep moving forward and to keep going. So if you stuck with me, we're at about half an hour. This is definitely the longest video I've ever done, but hopefully this gives you some insight. Hopefully it gives you some, inspiration, something to work with. Like I said, if you have any questions, please don't ever hesitate to contact me, because this is the shit that I live for. This is where I'm focusing my attention and my life right now. It's a big undertaking. It's a lot of work, but I am acting as a lighthouse for you guys. So I'm being vulnerable and putting myself out there and shining my own light so that you guys can hopefully find me. Whoever needs to find me, whoever needs to hear this can hear it. And if you feel like there's anyone in your life who could benefit or who needs to hear this or learn about this, by all means, send them my way. Send them a link to this video or my channel or any of my social media or the Holistic Psychologist or anyone else. So thank you guys for tuning in. I really, really, really appreciate it. And happy Monday. I hope you guys have a really good week. Take care.